Hey guys, tonight we begin with one of the oldest, most mysterious questions humanity has ever asked. One that touches every decision you've ever made, every thought you've ever had, and perhaps even the reason you're listening to this right now. Have you ever wondered if the choices you make are truly yours, or if they've been written in the stars since the beginning of time? This question, do we have free will or is everything predetermined, has echoed across centuries. From ancient philosophers and religious thinkers to neuroscientists and quantum physicists, each has tried to answer it, yet the mystery remains. In tonight's peaceful journey, we'll explore what it really means to choose. We'll look at how ancient thinkers understood human freedom, how modern science studies our decisions, and why this question still matters deeply in our daily lives, in our relationships, our sense of purpose, and our understanding of morality. We'll visit the temples of ancient Greece, peek into the quiet chambers of the human brain, wander through the corridors of modern philosophy, and even look ahead into a future where technology may one day predict or even control our every move. So if you've ever paused and asked yourself, was that really my decision, or was it always going to happen this way? You're in the right place. Before we settle in and begin our peaceful journey, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if what I share here truly resonates with you. Your support helps me create more of these long, calm explorations into existence, consciousness, and reality. And if you feel like it, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is where you are. It's always fascinating to see the many corners of the world where we connect, perhaps proving, in its own way, how deeply intertwined all our stories really are. Now, dim the lights, make yourself comfortable, take a deep, unhurried breath, and let's ease into tonight's journey together as we begin exploring one of humanity's greatest mysteries, the question of free will. Chapter 1. The Age-Old Debate. Have you ever noticed how some moments in life feel completely spontaneous, like a sudden urge to call a friend or an impulse to take a different route home, while others seem to unfold as if they were always meant to happen? That small tension between freedom and fate sits at the heart of one of philosophy's oldest and most haunting questions. Are we truly free to choose? Or are we merely following a path already laid out for us? To begin, let's define what we mean by free will. Free will is the ability to make decisions, real, independent choices, that are not entirely shaped or forced by external factors. It's the sense that you are the one steering the ship of your life, that when you choose tea over coffee, kindness over anger, or courage over fear, the decision genuinely comes from you. But there's another view, one that feels less intuitive, but equally profound. It's called determinism. Determinism suggests that every event, every choice, every heartbeat and thought is the inevitable result of everything that came before it. Just as the planets follow predictable paths through space, so too, perhaps, do our minds follow patterns we don't see. Imagine standing at a river's edge. The water flows in one direction, guided by gravity, by the shape of the rocks and the slope of the land. If determinism is true, then your life, every decision and emotion, might be just like that river, flowing naturally, beautifully, but always following the contours of what came before. Free will, then, would be like trying to swim upstream, to push against the current of causality and rewrite what nature has set in motion. Philosophers have wrestled with this tension for thousands of years. Some say that without free will, morality itself collapses. After all, how can someone be praised or blamed for their actions if they were never truly free to choose otherwise? Others argue that determinism doesn't destroy meaning. It merely changes our understanding of it. Perhaps meaning isn't about choice at all, but about awareness, about witnessing life unfold through us. This question touches everything. It shapes how we think about justice, whether people should be punished or rehabilitated. It influences how we see success and failure, whether we celebrate effort or accept inevitability. And it even guides how we understand love, whether affection is freely given or simply written into the chemistry of our hearts. To truly grasp this mystery, we must look backward to the origins of thought itself. Because this isn't a question born of modern science or psychology. It's a question whispered in temples, debated in ancient marketplaces, and pondered under starlit skies long before history began to write itself. It's a question that once stirred the minds of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the first seekers of wisdom who dared to ask, what makes a human truly free? And so, as we prepare to move deeper into the story, we'll travel back thousands of years to see how humanity first tried to understand the invisible strings that may or may not guide our every move. Chapter 2: Historical Perspectives. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a warm, candlelit room in an ancient city. The air smells faintly of oil and dust. A small group of people sit in a circle, speaking softly, not about politics or weather, but about the deepest question of all. What does it mean to choose? This is where our story continues, in the slow, careful conversations of the past. To understand how we think about free will today, we must walk along these old paths. Each thinker, each faith, and each age added a new turn in the road. Let's take that walk together, step by step, listening to the echoes. The ancient philosophical debate. Our journey begins in ancient Greece, where the first organized attempts to understand human freedom took shape. Picture Socrates standing in the Athenian marketplace, not just asking questions to win arguments, but inviting people to examine their lives. He wasn't interested in clever tricks. He wanted clarity about virtue, choice, and the good life. Plato, Socrates' pupil, took those questions into the realm of forms and ideals. In his world, there was a distinction between the higher, eternal realities and the shifting shadows we see. For Plato, the soul had a special relationship to truth and wisdom. When the soul is aligned with reason, the person acts well. In that sense, freedom meant living according to the best part of oneself, the rational soul that can turn toward the good. Aristotle, Plato's student, brought the question down from lofty forms to ordinary human life. He gave us one of the earliest clear discussions about voluntary action. Aristotle noticed the difference between actions performed because of compulsion and those done from choice. For him, moral responsibility required that actions come from the agent, that a person understands the situation and chooses willingly. If you push someone into a choice, Aristotle would say they are not fully responsible in the same way. Across the Mediterranean, other ancient schools nudged the debate in different directions. The Stoics taught that much of life is governed by fate. Their guiding image was the cosmos ordered by logos, a rational principle. At the same time, they urged the individual to cultivate inner freedom, an attitude of acceptance and virtue regardless of external circumstances. So even in a deterministic framework, they found room for a kind of freedom of response, of character. The role of religion. Now picture a quiet, candlelit monastery or a simple village church or a temple on a hill at dusk. For many people through history, religious frameworks shaped how free will and destiny were understood. In Christianity, the conversation grew complex. Some thinkers emphasize human responsibility and the capacity to choose good or evil. Others, especially in later debates, emphasize divine foreknowledge and predestination. Perhaps the most famous theological tension occurred in the early centuries between ideas of human free choice and the notion that God's will and foreknowledge might determine everything. Augustine of Hippo, writing in the warm light of North Africa, wrestled deeply with these questions. How can God be all-knowing and all-good, and yet humans still be free? His reflections shaped much of Western thought. Later, in the 16th century, the Protestant Reformation brought these questions back to the centre. John Calvin's doctrine of predestination suggested that God's sovereignty extends deeply into human fate, which felt comforting to some and disturbing to others. The theological debate wasn't merely abstract. It affected how communities understood sin, mercy, and justice. Across the globe, other religious traditions offered different images. In Hinduism, the idea of karma connects action and consequence across time. Your present choices are shaped by past actions, and your future will be shaped by the present. A vast tapestry of moral cause and effect. This can sound deterministic, but it also emphasizes moral growth. By acting rightly, one reshapes future cause and effect. Buddhism adds another twist. It questions the solidity of a permanent self altogether. If there is no fixed self, what does it mean to say, I choose? Yet Buddhism also speaks of intentional action, karma, and the transformative power of mindfulness, the practice of noticing and gently reshaping habitual responses. So freedom, for many Buddhists, is less about an uncaused will and more about awakening to how we respond. Islamic thought, too, engaged the paradox of divine decree and human agency. Many Muslim philosophers and theologians debated whether God's knowledge and power negate human choice, or whether human responsibility stands firm despite divine omniscience. Jewish thinkers, especially in medieval philosophy, wrestled with similar issues, balancing divine providence with human moral life. Across these faiths, a pattern appears. Religious frameworks often hold two threads at once: the sense that larger, transcendent forces shape the world, and the conviction that humans still bear moral responsibility. These two threads are sometimes woven into tension, sometimes into a richer tapestry of meaning. As centuries turned and the world shifted toward modernity, another current grew stronger: the idea of the individual as an autonomous moral agent. The Enlightenment's faith in reason, the scientific method, and the dignity of the individual reshaped the debate. René Descartes opened a new chapter. His famous cogito, I think, therefore I am, placed the thinking subject at the heart of philosophy. For Descartes, the mind was a sovereign realm, a space where doubt could be examined and choice could be affirmed. This move helped generate the modern image of a self capable of independent reflection and will. Baruch Spinoza, however, offered a different, more deterministic view. For Spinoza, everything follows from the necessity of God or nature. Human actions and passions are part of that chain of cause and effect. Spinoza's vision is beautiful and austere. Understanding the causes that move us brings a kind of peaceful necessity. In his system, learning why we act is part of achieving higher freedom, the freedom of understanding. Immanuel Kant then gave the modern debate a new structure. Kant was troubled by the implications of determinism for moral responsibility, but he also recognized the reality of natural causation. His solution was to split the world into two realms: the empirical domain, where causes and effects follow natural laws, and the practical domain, where rational beings must assume themselves free in order to act morally. Kant argued that moral life presupposes freedom. To hold someone accountable is to treat them as if they can act for reasons. In Kant's view, freedom is a necessary postulate for ethics, a kind of practical assumption that makes moral life possible. This period also saw the rise of individualism in society. with increasing emphasis on personal rights, legal responsibility, and private conscience, the belief that individuals are agents of their choices became central to politics, law, and emerging cultures of personal identity. Let me tell you a short story that captures the human heart of these debates. Imagine a small village in the shadow of a mountain. An old man sits by the road, mending a net. A traveller stops and asks him, "Do you choose to mend this, or is it simply what your hands do?" The old man smiles and says, "My hands learn from my past. My heart decides whether to sing while I mend." This little scene holds a paradox felt by every era. Our past shapes what we can do, yet our present can infuse those actions with meaning. Whether you lean toward Plato's soul, Spinoza's necessity, or Kant's practical freedom, the human experience remains textured by both influence and intention. Why spend so long with thinkers and stories from distant times? Because their ideas lay the groundwork for how we treat each other today. When a court decides punishment or a therapy aims to change behaviour, when we praise a friend for choosing courage or we question a leader's motives, we draw on centuries of thinking about freedom and determinism. The ancient debates feed directly into modern laws, moral systems, and everyday conversations. And there's another gentle reason to listen. These voices teach us humility. They show that this question resists easy answers. Across cultures and centuries, intelligent, compassionate people arrived at different conclusions, sometimes conflicting, sometimes complementary. That variety invites us to keep exploring, with curiosity and care. As we slow the pace and prepare to move forward, know that the path ahead will change its terrain. We will leave the candlelit rooms and temples for a different kind of light, the soft glow of the laboratory, the steady hum of scanners, and the careful charts of modern neuroscience. There, questions take on new forms. How does a brain decide? Can we see decisions forming before we become aware of them? And what does that mean for responsibility, praise, and regret? When you're ready, we'll step into that quieter, more clinical light, but we'll remain gentle. The future chapters will return again and again to the human warmth beneath the theory, reminding us that these debates are not just for philosophers or scientists, but for anyone who has ever wondered at a choice. Chapter 3: Scientific Insights, the Brain and Behaviour. Take a slow breath now, and as the air fills your lungs, imagine the soft warmth of a room lit by a single lamp. In that quiet light, we move from old books and ancient debates into a different kind of room, a lab filled with gentle humming machines, shaded screens, and people who listen to the small signals of the body. Here, scientists watch the brain as it decides, and their findings raise new, gentle puzzles about choice. Our first stop is the way the brain seems to prepare for action. Imagine you're sitting, and suddenly you reach out to lift a cup of tea. It feels like your choice comes first, and the movement follows. But scientists measuring tiny electric signals have sometimes found that the brain begins to move long before you feel you decided. In a famous experiment, a person's brain shows a small rise in electrical activity a little while before the person says, "Now I will move." This has made many people wonder, if the brain starts the action before we're aware, who really chose? This finding is not a simple knockdown of free will. It asks us to be careful about what we mean by decide. Sometimes the brain prepares many things at once, like a stage crew setting lights before the actor walks out. The moment we feel a choice may be the final step in a longer inner process. In other studies, using brain scans that can see patterns of activity, researchers could guess which button a person would press several seconds before the person reported deciding. That felt strange to many listeners, as if our inner mind was only a storyteller, explaining decisions that had already been made. But let us stay calm with this mystery. The brain is not one simple thing. It is a crowd of parts that talk quietly to each other. Some parts notice the world and send signals forward. Other parts hold memories and habits. Still others weigh reasons, like a slow, steady voice asking, "Will this help me?" When these parts speak together, the final choice emerges. Sometimes that emergence is quick and easy. Sometimes it is slow and tangled. The fact that some brain signals come early does not prove a neat, simple answer. It only shows that much happens below the surface of our awareness. Now think about the many threads that shape the cloth of who you are. Your genes are one thread. These are the small blueprints that form your body and tune parts of your mind. Some people are born with a temper, or with a calm heart, or with a mind that notices patterns easily. These tendencies do not tell the whole story of choice, but they put a gentle tilt on the seesaw of behaviour. Then there are the other threads: your childhood, the voices you heard, the meals you ate, the games you played, the stories you loved. These things teach you what choices feel easy and which feel hard. They lay tracks that your thoughts run along more often than others. Think of a river valley shaped by many rains across many years. The valley's shape guides where water flows, but each new rain changes the flow a little. So it is with nature and nurture. Your genes and your life so far shape possibilities. They do not by themselves produce a final destiny. Human lives contain space for small turns, surprises, and new paths. Yet the weight of prior causes matters. That is why we study both biology and environment when we ask about freedom. There is another gentle discovery to consider. Many of our choices are guided by habits and subtle cues of which we are unaware. A simple smell can make you remember a childhood kitchen and nudge you toward comfort food. A billboard or a friend's suggestion can tilt a choice. Our minds use shortcuts to keep us from being overloaded with choice. These shortcuts are not tricks to fool us. They are the brain's way of making life manageable. But they can also make some choices feel less like full creations of the will and more like soft echoes of past patterns. And then there is the question of consciousness itself. What is it to be aware of choosing? When you decide to write a note, does the conscious eye take the pen and lead? Or does the conscious eye watch as inner processes align and then claim the action as its own? Some scientists think consciousness is like a theatre, where certain events are lit and noticed. Other events stay behind the curtains. Even if much of the backstage work happens without awareness, the experience of choosing may still be real and important. It shapes how we learn, how we plan, and how we shape our future behaviour. We should gently test what these discoveries mean for moral responsibility. If our brain and past causes shape actions, can we still praise or blame? Many thinkers suggest that responsibility depends less on absolute freedom and more on the kind of creature we are. We are social beings who respond to reasons, encouragement, and correction. When someone understands the reasons for acting differently and can act on them, we can still hold them responsible in a meaningful way. In other words, responsibility grows from our ability to reflect, learn, and change, not from being uncaused in a metaphysical sense. Let me tell you a short, calming story to bring this closer to home. There was once a woman who had a habit of answering sharply when she felt cornered. One evening, she snapped at a neighbour and felt shame afterward. She wanted to change. Rather than telling herself she had no choice, she began to notice the first tightness in her chest that came before the words. She breathed, counted to 3, and then spoke softly. Over time, the habit softened. Her story shows that even if past causes shape us, awareness and small practices can open new paths. It is a gentle kind of freedom. Not the sudden break-in of a chain, but the gradual reshaping of it. As we close this chapter and prepare to move on, imagine once more the warm lamp and the soft hum of the lab. The science of the brain reminds us that choice is layered and complex. It is a dance between hidden rhythms and conscious lights. Our bodies and our past guide the steps, but within that dance there can be mindful moments where movement changes. In the next chapter, we will return to the world of ideas and meet modern philosophers who have tried to make sense of these findings. We will listen to voices that say free will and determinism can live together, and to others who insist they cannot. We will explore how those views shape how we see ourselves as moral beings, lovers and citizens. Now take a slow breath in, and as you let it out, feel the gentle certainty that this question is not meant to frighten you. It invites you to be curious and kind to yourself. Chapter 4. Modern Philosophical Views. Breathe in slowly, and as you breathe out, imagine a long, quiet path through a soft forest. The trees are old, and their branches arch like questions over the way. We walk this path now, listening to the voices of thinkers who try to make sense of freedom and fate in the clear light of reason. Their words are tools, not answers. They help us look at the shapes of the problem from many sides. Let us walk slowly and let each idea settle like dew on our thoughts. Some people believe that free will and determinism cannot both be true. They point to the chain of causes that shape each moment. If every event follows from earlier events in a steady way, they ask, where can true choice live? If you could rewind the world and play it again, would the same choices happen? If yes, then perhaps choices were never free in the strong sense we imagine. This view is often called hard determinism. It can feel cold at first because it seems to take away the sense that we are the originators of our acts. Yet hard determinists remind us of the deep order of cause and effect that builds the world. They ask us to be honest about how much our lives are shaped before we act. On the other side stand those who insist that free will is real and cannot be explained by mere cause and effect. They are sometimes called libertarians about free will. For them, when you choose, you're not just one link in a chain, you're a source. You could have done otherwise in a deep, real way. This idea gives a strong sense of ownership over our lives. It can feel warm and right. But it also raises hard questions. If choices are not caused by earlier things, then how do they happen? Are they random? If they are random, does that really make us more responsible? Libertarians answer by trying to show ways a person can be the source of actions, not in a mysterious way, but as an agent who begins new causal chains. Between these two poles stands a large and gentle bridge called compatibilism. Compatibilists say that free will and determinism can live together. They suggest that being free does not mean being free from all causes. Rather, it means acting in certain right ways. If you act because you want to, understand your reasons, and are not forced, then you're free in a meaningful sense. Imagine steering a boat on a river. The river flows, but you still steer. Your steering matters. Compatibilists point out that much of our moral talk depends on this kind of freedom. When a teacher praises a student for studying, or a friend forgives someone who tried to change, compatibilist freedom is enough for these human responses. This view keeps responsibility and the order of nature in the same picture. To make these ideas less abstract, picture a quiet scene at a table. A person chooses to put on a coat. A hard determinist would say the coat choice follows from their entire past. Cold weather, their memory of being chilled, a habit, the shape of their genes, the state of their bones. A libertarian would insist there was a moment when the person could have truly done otherwise, and that moment made them fully responsible. A compatibilist would say the person acted freely because they understood the reasons, wanted warmth, and we're not pushed or tricked. The same action looks different depending on the view. Each view helps us notice parts of the life we might miss. Modern philosophers also try to clear up the feeling that freedom needs to be absolute. Some ask, what does it mean to be the author of our actions? If I write a letter, I might sign my name. If I act, in what way can I be said to sign my life? One key idea here is sourcehood. To be a source is to be the one from whom actions ultimately come. Hard determinists hold that if all events are fully caused by prior events, then no one is an ultimate source. Compatibilists respond that sourcehood as a metaphysical fact is not needed for practical responsibility. What matters is that the person's reasons play an effective role, and the person can reflect and respond to reasons. Another worry that philosophers spend time with is called the could have done otherwise problem. When we say someone could have done otherwise, do we mean they would have done otherwise if they had chosen differently in the exact same past? Or do we mean they would have done otherwise if some deep, small part of the past had been different? The second reading is stronger and harder to hold because it asks us to imagine tiny tweaks to the whole past. Many compatibilists prefer a weaker reading. A person could have done otherwise when they had the power to act otherwise in response to reasons and motives. This softer sense of possibility can carry real meaning for praise and blame. Some modern voices bring new terms and new ways to see things. They ask us to notice the way we plan, the way we learn, and the way we respond to reasons. If a person can form plans, rewrite habits, and act on reasons, then a society that rewards such growth has good reason to treat them as responsible. This view gives us gentle tools, education, therapy, praise, and law, not as punishments alone, but as ways to shape lives toward better actions. Yet doubts remain. Even if we accept a practical kind of freedom, some ask whether that is enough for deep meaning. If nothing is ultimately uncaused, how real is the sense that we are the authors of our life stories? These are not just academic worries. They reach into how we feel after a betrayal, how we celebrate victory, and how we comfort a child who is learning from a mistake. Philosophy here becomes human. It helps us craft ways of living that respect truth and still keep warmth. There are also many thought experiments in modern philosophy that try to sharpen our sense of the problem. One simple example asks, imagine two worlds that start the same way but split at some point. In one world you choose tea, in the other you choose coffee. What changed to make you choose differently? If the past was the same up to that point, compatibilists say the difference comes from present reasons and motives. Libertarians say there must be a new, uncaused beginning inside you that made the change. Hard determinists say that if the past was truly identical, the same choice would have followed in both worlds. Each answer has its costs and comforts. We should not forget that many modern philosophers also bring moral psychology into the picture. They look closely at the way we make decisions in everyday life. They study self-control, habits, and the small steps by which we change. For them, freedom is not a single grand event. It is a pattern of life. It grows when we learn to notice our reactions, when we set gentle routines that reflect our values, and when we build relationships that encourage better choices. In this view, freedom is a skill we practice, not a gift we simply receive. A final gentle note in this chapter is about humility. Modern philosophy does not deliver a tidy verdict. It offers maps of different terrains. Some places feel like solid ground, others are misty and open to many paths. The best we can do is walk with care, learn from the maps, and keep our hearts present. The question of freedom is not merely to be solved and put away. It is to be lived with, day by day. We can use what we learn to be kinder to ourselves and to each other. As we leave this clearing in the forest, know that the next path will bring us inward. we will look at the mind's everyday life and the small psychology that shapes choice. We will see how our habits, our biases, and our hidden drives make the world of decision rich and strange. For now, breathe in slowly, feel the forest air of thought around you, and let the quiet sink in. Chapter 5. The Psychological Perspective. Breathe in slowly and let your shoulders relax. As you settle, imagine a quiet room that holds both shadow and light, a place where small, ordinary moments reveal deep truths. Tonight, we will sit in that room for a while and watch how the mind quietly moves. We will explore how many choices feel like ours, and yet how often they arise from parts of us that we scarcely notice. This is not meant to unsettle you. It is meant to invite gentle curiosity, like opening a window to let fresh air into a warm house. Think for a moment about a tiny decision you made today, perhaps what you had for breakfast, or whether to reply to a message, or the clothes you picked. Now imagine tracing that decision back. You will find a web of reasons, a thought, a feeling, a memory, a habit. There are the small nudges of hunger or cold, the pull of comfort, the echo of a friend's advice, the image you once saw in an ad, and the voice of a habit that has lived with you for years. Psychology shows us that many of our choices are built from these small, quiet pieces. They fit together and look like a choice, but often the pieces were already set in motion. At the heart of modern psychology is a simple map. Some parts of the mind act fast and quietly, making quick judgments and snap decisions. Other parts act slower and more carefully, pausing to weigh reasons and think things through. The fast part helps us move through life without getting stuck on every tiny matter. It knows faces, reads moods, and spots danger. The slow part does math, plans, and reflects on who we want to be. Both parts are valuable. Both shape our choices. The fast mind might guide you to step aside for a passing car without thinking. The slow mind might help you decide whether to change jobs next year. The dance between these parts is part of what it feels like to be human. But the fast mind has habits. It uses shortcuts because the world is full of detail. These shortcuts, sometimes called biases or heuristics, are mental tools that save effort. They are not flaws so much as built-in ways to cope, yet they can lead us to choices that do not match our long-term goals. For example, we may prefer a small reward now over a large one later. This is why sweets can win over salads, and why a quick text feels better than a long call. The mind enjoys small, certain pleasures. That preference does not mean your choices are meaningless. It means that your present feelings and habits play a strong role in what you choose. Sometimes these shortcuts make our choices feel like an illusion. We look back and tell ourselves a story about why we chose, and that story feels true. But often the mind builds the story after the fact to make sense of what happened. This is not to say that our stories are lies. They are the mind's way of weaving a life that feels coherent. Still, the thought that we narrate our choices after they happen can be humbling. It asks us to look for places where we might gently reshape those stories by changing the small pieces that make them. One soft and simple example is the way framing works. If you buy a product because it is on sale, you might feel smart. If you buy it on impulse at night when you feel tired, you might later wonder why you did it at all. The same object, framed differently, yields different choices. This shows us how context matters. Calm room, a loving voice, a deadline, or a bright sign can all nudge what we do. The gentle lesson is this: our environment quietly shapes our will. By changing the environment, by dimming lights, by putting healthy food within reach, by keeping a journal, we can make it easier for the parts of us that plan to win more often. Now let us turn inward, to the role of consciousness itself. Consciousness feels like the center of making choices. It feels like the place where we weigh reasons and decide. Yet psychology suggests that much of the work of decision-making happens before we become aware of it. The mind gathers pieces, weighs them, and only later shines the light of consciousness on the final shape. This is not a verdict that you do not matter. Rather, it is an invitation to notice the earlier signals, the quick gut feelings, the tiny tensions in the body, the first sparks of thought. As you learn to notice these early signs, you can give yourself a tiny space to choose differently. In practice, that space might be a breath, a short pause, a soft question to yourself. Over time, those tiny pauses can grow into real change. Cognitive psychology also studies how emotions color our choices. When we're sad, angry, or afraid, our decisions shift. Fear can narrow our options. Joy can open them. Anger can make us act fast. A calm mind sees more options. This is why habits of rest, sleep, and small rituals matter so much. When you are rested, you can think more clearly. When you are rushed, you're more likely to follow old paths. This gentle truth is an encouragement. Care for your body and mind, and you care for your freedom. Another layer is the role of identity. People often choose in ways that fit who they think they are. If you see yourself as a caring person, you're more likely to act kindly. If you see yourself as someone who never goes to the gym, that identity can become a self-fulfilling script. The good news is that identities can be changed. A small shift in how you describe yourself, I am someone who tries to walk a little each day, can nudge many small choices in a new direction. Psychologists call this self-signaling. Our actions tell us who we are, and who we think we are tells us what we'll do next. This loop can trap us, or it can help us grow. We must also look gently at moral responsibility from a psychological angle. If so much of choice arises from prior causes and hidden processes, is it fair to hold people responsible? Psychology suggests a careful answer. Responsibility is not only a metaphysical claim about ultimate freedom, it is also a pragmatic tool that shapes behavior. When a community cares for someone, when parents teach a child, when courts hold people accountable, change often follows. People learn from feedback. They change habits, form new identities, and become different over time. So even if our deepest freedom is limited, the practices of praise, blame, and repair still help us become better selves. The psychology of learning shows that behavior can change, and that change is the foundation of moral life. Let me tell you a simple story to bring this close. There was a young man who spoke harshly when he felt ignored. He believed he had no choice. It was simply his nature. One winter evening, after saying something hurtful, he sat alone and felt ashamed. He began to notice the tiny heat in his chest before the words came. He tried a small experiment. When the heat rose, he counted to 5 and breathed slowly. At first, the changes were small. He still stumbled into old words sometimes, but over months his pauses lengthened and his sharp replies softened. He started to see himself as someone who considered before speaking. His friends noticed. He felt more at peace. His story shows that even when habits feel fixed, gentle attention and small steps can guide new choices. This is not dramatic magic. It is steady work, like tending a garden. Psychology also offers tools that help us take these small steps. Mindfulness trains attention. It helps you notice the first stirrings of thought and feeling. Cognitive practices teach us to reframe a situation, to ask different questions and to test our stories. Simple routines, a breathing break before answering, a short walk before an important call, give the slow mind room to weigh reasons. These practices do not make choices perfectly free in some grand sense, but they expand the space in which your choices form. They make you more of an author in your life. As we move toward the close of this chapter, consider how social life shapes choice. We are not islands. Friends, family, work, and culture guide us. Communities celebrate certain choices and discourage others. The same person may act very differently in different circles. This reality can feel heavy, but it also means change is possible through gentle influence. If you want to become kinder, find people who model kindness. If you want to break a habit, create new routines with supportive friends. Society shapes freedom, but it also supports its growth. Finally, know this: learning about the psychological roots of our choices need not make you feel small or helpless. Instead, it can be a soft power. Understanding how your mind works gives you tools to shape your life with care. You can use gentle practices to widen the gap between impulse and action. You can change the stories you tell yourself. You can design your environment so your better choices become the easy ones. This kind of work is quiet and patient, but it is real. Stay with me as we continue. Ahead lies Chapter 6, where we'll look at how society and law treat free will, how ideas of responsibility shape justice, and what changes might follow if our view of human choice shifts. We will think about punishment and healing, about blame and reform, and about how a community can hold both truth and compassion. For now, take a slow, deep breath. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Remember that this exploration of the mind is a kind and careful one, meant to soothe and to open. Chapter 6: Free Will and Society. Take a slow breath and settle deeper into your chair. Imagine a wide, quiet town square at dusk. Lamps glow one by one, and people move homeward, each carrying stories, choices, debts, and small freedoms. This square is where the ideas we have been talking about meet the real world. It is where laws are written, where families shape children, where communities decide what counts as blame and what counts as help. Tonight we sit on a bench in that square and watch how society treats the idea of free will. We will walk slowly through courts and classrooms, prisons and kitchens, and see how our beliefs about choice shape the ways people live together. Society works on stories. We tell ourselves stories about why people do what they do. These stories help us know how to respond. If someone pushes another person in anger, we tell a story. Did they mean to do harm? Were they under a strong provocation? Were they drunk or ill? If we think the act came from a deep and unchangeable nature, we might feel hopeless about changing it. If we think the act was a momentary lapse that a person can learn from, we might hope for repair. These stories do not just explain actions, they guide how communities act next. They shape punishment, help, and healing. The legal system is a place where our beliefs about free will play out in very clear ways. Courts often assume people are responsible for their actions. That assumption makes sense in a world where we expect people to follow rules, pay debts, and treat each other with care. Laws ask whether a person acted with knowledge and intent. Did they understand what they were doing? Could they have done otherwise? These questions matter a great deal because they determine punishment and safety. If the law treats everyone as fully free in the stronger sense, it may punish harshly, believing strict penalties will deter bad acts. If the law treats people as mostly shaped by past causes and limited control, it may shift toward rehabilitation, healing, and prevention. Imagine two judges in two different towns. One judge believes strongly that people choose freely and can choose better if punished. That judge hands down firm sentences, hoping punishment will teach lessons. Another judge believes that many choices come from hard-to-change living conditions, illness, or trauma. That judge focuses on treatment, counseling, and changing conditions. Both are working to keep the town safe, but they use different tools based on different stories about free will. These tools shape many lives. When we look at prisons, we see the human consequences of these stories. Prisons can be places of punishment or places of change. In some systems, prisons are built mainly to remove danger and to make punishment clear. In other systems, prisons aim to repair harm and teach new skills. If you believe people are mostly shaped by their past and environment, you may favour programs that teach skills, treat addiction, and offer therapy. If you believe people freely choose wrongdoing, you may favour punishment that fits the crime. Both approaches spring from deep views about what people are and how much control they have. There is a gentle idea we can hold here. Justice can include both truth and care. It can hold people accountable while also giving them support to change. Imagine a community circle where the person who caused harm meets those harmed, listens, repairs what they can, and is helped to grow. This approach treats choice seriously, but also recognizes the many causes that shape action. It asks for honesty, consequence, and repair rather than only retribution. Many communities find this way quietly healing. Social and cultural forces also shape how free we feel. Think of the small rules that guide daily life. Whether girls are taught to be quiet, whether a job feels open to someone of a certain race, whether money is easy to get or always tight. These matters guide what people can choose. Someone born into plenty has more real options than someone born into poverty. Cultures teach values that shape desires. Some cultures prize independence, others value duty to family. These lessons guide choices in 1,000 small ways. When a society recognizes these forces, it can work to create fairer conditions, more education, more healthcare, more chances for everyone to make meaningful choices. In that sense, social policy becomes a quiet way to expand freedom. We can also see how public talk about free will affects how people feel about themselves. If a culture insists we are completely free and each failure is the fault of the person alone, people may carry heavy shame. They may feel they are to blame for things beyond their control. If a culture insists everything is predetermined, people may feel helpless, thinking nothing they do matters. A balanced story helps. It says that while we live in a world of causes, we also have the capacity to learn, to respond to reasons, and to change. This balance supports personal growth without cruel blame. Let us pause for a simple, human scene. Picture a parent and a child in a small kitchen. The child breaks a plate. The parent can respond in several ways, with anger and strict punishment, with gentle correction and teaching, or with a mix of both. Which response the parent chooses depends on their beliefs about the child's control. If the parent believes the child is an agent who should know better, they might punish sharply. If the parent believes the child is still learning and shaped by example, they might show calm guidance. These small choices shape the child's sense of self. Over time, such responses help form habits, values, and the child's belief in their own agency. In schools, too, beliefs about free will shape teaching. When teachers hold that students can grow with practice, they encourage effort and improvement. They praise the work, not just the result. This belief, sometimes called a growth mindset, helps students try, fail, and try again. If teachers assume intelligence is fixed, students may give up easily. In this way, how we speak about choice and ability literally changes what people do. That is a powerful and hopeful truth. By shaping expectations kindly, society can expand the space in which people make better choices. Media and advertising quietly shape choice as well. Advertisers know that mood and context affect decisions, so they design messages that nudge people. Social platforms use algorithms to show content that keeps attention. These forces can make people feel less free, because choices are shaped by unseen design. But knowing this gives us choice of our own, to design our environment differently, to set boundaries, and to create spaces that support the values we want. Now consider law, responsibility, and mercy. There is a deep old question. What does punishment aim to do? Does it aim to deter, to teach, to protect, or to express moral condemnation? Each aim implies a different view of choice. A society that values protection may focus on incarceration to keep people safe. A society that values reformation may invest in education and therapy. A society that values expression of moral outrage may take pride in firm punishment. There is no single right answer, but the best approach may be mixed. Hold people to account, protect the vulnerable, and work to change the causes that lead to harm. There's another gentle point to think about: forgiveness. If we knew for sure that someone's actions were the result of factors beyond their control, would forgiveness be easier or harder? For some it would be easier because we would see the person as shaped and wounded. For others it would be harder because the sense of justice might demand consequence regardless. Forgiveness is a personal and social art. It requires honesty, courage, and sometimes boundaries. It is a practice that shows how society can hold truth and care at once. As we watch the square now, notice small ways people extend freedom. A neighbour offering a job to someone trying to change, a family supporting a recovering member, a school offering a second chance. These are acts that say, we believe people can learn and change. They are quiet bets on human growth. When a society makes many such bets, it enlarges the room where real choices can be made. Finally, let us think about what would change if science later showed that choice is more limited than we believed. Would our moral life crumble? Not necessarily. Humans have long adapted their moral practices to new knowledge. Even if some freedom is limited, we can still value kindness, care, and repair. We can design systems that respond to causes and help people change. Love, art, and meaning do not only depend on absolute freedom. They grow in the soil of attention, of shared stories, and of commitment. As we end this chapter, remember the square at dusk. Society is not an abstract thing. It is the sum of many small acts, calls to help, quiet lessons, laws, and chances. How we talk about free will shapes those acts. If we choose stories of harsh blame, we build more walls. If we choose stories of reasoned responsibility, we build bridges. This knowledge is an invitation, not a verdict. It asks us to shape a world where people can be held to account and also help to grow. Stay with me as we move next into a world where technology meets the mind, a place of screens and algorithms, of prediction and influence. We will look at how machines nudge choices and what that might mean for our sense of being free. Chapter 7: The Intersection of Technology and Free Will. Take a soft breath and settle back as we move now into a quieter room filled with screens, gentle hums, and the faint light of notifications. Imagine the steady, slow glow of a phone on a bedside table. Imagine a map on your screen that suggests a route home, a playlist that knows the exact kind of music that eases you, and an ad that appears for something you had only thought about minutes before. Technology feels like a helpful friend. It also asks us to notice how much of our path it quietly lays out for us. Technology began as tools to make life easier. A wheel, a book, a simple clock. Each gave us more time or more reach. Today's tools learn from us. They watch patterns. They notice what we click, where we pause, who we follow, and what keeps our attention. This watching is not always bad. Recommender systems help us find a new song to love, a book that fits a mood, or a route that avoids traffic. Yet the same gentle help can become a shaping force. When a system learns what you like and keeps offering it, your world grows narrower in some ways and richer in others. that narrowing can make some choices feel less like open doors and more like well-worn paths. Think of an evening when you open a video app to watch one calm clip and, an hour later, find yourself in a place you did not plan to be. The app suggested one link, then another, each tuned to keep you watching. The choices felt small, to click, to continue. But the pattern is real. Algorithms are designed to keep attention. They do it by learning what moves you. The more they learn, the better they predict. Better prediction feels useful. It also means the machine begins to shape what you see and what you might do next. There is a quiet form of influence called nudging. A nudge is a small change in the way choices are presented that pushes people gently in one direction. It might be the arrangement of items in a store, a reminder to save money, or an option set as the default on a form. Nudges can be caring. A nudge that reminds you to drink water or to wear a seatbelt supports well-being. But nudges can also be used to sell, to steer votes, or to push behavior that benefits others more than it benefits you. The important thing is that nudges change the feel of freedom. When the easiest option is the one a company wants, your choice becomes a little less open. A deeper strand of technology asks whether machines can predict not just what you click, but what you will feel. Predictive analytics use vast collections of data to make guesses about future behavior. These guesses can be as simple as predicting what product someone will buy next, or as complex as predicting who might miss a payment or who might be at risk. When prediction becomes precise, two things happen at once. On one hand, help can arrive before we ask. A reminder to take medicine when your health data suggests a risk can save a life. On the other hand, precision can be used to manipulate. If a system knows your weakness for late-night shopping, it can send an offer at that exact hour. Our sense of being fully in charge may begin to shift. Now picture a quieter, more intimate kind of technology, devices that touch the brain. Some technologies already help people in deep ways. A person with tremors may feel calm after a device stimulates a tiny spot in the brain. These interventions can heal. They can restore a life. But they also raise a gentle alarm. When a device changes how we feel or decide, who is guiding the change? If a machine reduces depressive feelings, is the person more free because they can choose better, or less free because a device altered their mood? These are tender and hard questions. The same technology that heals can also be used to push a person towards certain choices. The difference rests in how we govern and consent to the change. Imagine a future near at hand where brain-computer interfaces let a person type with a thought, or where wearable sensors nudge you towards sleep when your body needs rest. These advancements promise tremendous gifts. They will help people with disabilities, they will expand human capability, and they will weave new ways of connecting. Yet such power also asks for new care. How will we consent to these changes? Who owns the data of our thoughts and bodies? When technology can nudge feelings or predict choices with accuracy, we must ask for clear rules that protect the personal space inside us. Another gentle thread is the design of choice itself. Companies use persuasive design to shape behavior. This includes features like endless scrolling, autoplay, and subtle rewards. Designers often test what keeps people engaged. That engagement can be useful. Learning apps, habit tools, or well-being reminders can support growth. But persuasive design can also create dependence. When a design taps into our impulses to keep us coming back, the space for reflective choice shrinks. The slow, patient parts of our minds need space to breathe. Without small pauses, the quick, automatic parts easily lead. A simple practice to reclaim space is to add friction. A delay before posting, a setting to limit notifications, or a small step that asks you to confirm an important choice. Friction can be a kind of kindness to your future self. We must also watch for dark patterns. These design tricks that hide costs, make it hard to leave a service, or lead users into choices they did not fully intend. Dark patterns thrive when profit matters more than people. They quietly erode autonomy. Recognizing them is the first step to resisting them. When we know what to look for, we can choose differently. We can read settings, we can set boundaries, and we can demand better designs from the services we use. Now let me tell you a small story. A woman named Mara used a sleep app that promised better rest. The app tracked her sleep and suggested bedtime routines. At first, it helped. She slept more deeply and woke with calm. Over months, the app started sending gentle rewards for late-night browsing through partner content. What began as helpful nudges slowly shifted her habits. She noticed one morning that she felt less rested, and she traced the change back to the app's timing of suggestions. Mara turned off the nudges and set a night mode. Within weeks, her sleep deepened again. Her small act of reclaiming control shows how we can use technology to help, and how we can step back when it begins to steer too much. These issues are not only personal, they are public. Societies must decide how to govern technologies that can predict and reshape behavior. Laws can require transparency. They can make it clear when algorithms are shaping choices and require consent for sensitive data. Regulations can limit the use of persuasive design aimed at children. Governments and community can fund tools that support autonomy, such as open-source platforms that protect privacy. There are many paths forward, and they depend on wise and careful choices made by people who care about human freedom. At the same time, technology gives new tools to protect freedom. Encrypted communication, privacy-preserving algorithms, and tools that increase transparency can push back against manipulation. Design that centers human well-being, not just attention, can create spaces where the slow mind has room to breathe. Education that teaches digital literacy helps people understand how systems influence them. These steps are not dramatic, they are patient and practical. They create little islands of autonomy inside a vast sea of influence. As we move toward the close of this chapter, imagine once more the soft lamp and the phone on the table. Technology is neither friend nor foe alone. It is a mirror of what we build and how we choose to use it. If we design with care and set wise rules, technology can expand freedom. If we let profit and persuasion rule without guardrails, it can narrow our choices. The invitation is gentle and clear. Notice, set boundaries, and choose tools that reflect the kind of life you want. In the next chapter, we will look forward even further to transhuman ideas, genetic editing, and the questions they raise about who we might become. For now, breathe in slowly. As you exhale, feel the quiet power you have to shape the space where your choices form. Chapter 8. The Future of Free Will. Take a soft, deep breath and let it out slowly. Imagine a wide horizon at dawn, colors shifting from deep blue to pale gold. The air is cool and full of quiet promise. We stand at that edge now, looking toward a future where tools and knowledge change what it means to be human. In this chapter, we'll walk gently through possible futures, some near, some farther off, and ask how new technologies and ideas might shape our sense of choosing. This is not a race into the unknown, but a careful, curious step forward, noticing both gifts and risks with calm attention. First, picture the idea of enhancing the human mind. Scientists and engineers are working on ways to help people think more clearly, remember more easily, or control devices with their minds. Some of these advances are already real. Devices that help people with paralysis move a cursor with thought, implants that ease tremors, or apps that train attention. Imagine then a world where a person can wear a device that quiets impulsive urges, or where a small implant helps someone recall a comforting memory in moments of stress. For people who suffer, these tools can be a gentle miracle. They can return a sense of stability and choice that illness once took away. That is one beautiful possibility: technology healing and expanding freedom. Now, imagine another possibility beside it. If a device can calm impulses, could it also be used to nudge behavior in ways someone else prefers? If corporations or governments had access to precise ways of influencing desire or focus, the private space inside a person could feel less private. The same tool that helps could also steer. So the future brings a double image, one of more agency for some and one of more potential control by others. The question is not whether technology will change us. It will, but how we will guide that change. Next, let us think about genetic editing. The science of genes offers the possibility of reducing disease, easing suffering, and perhaps shaping traits like memory or mood. Imagine parents choosing to remove a genetic risk for a serious illness, or a doctor editing a gene to ease severe depression. These acts can expand real freedom by preventing suffering that narrows choice. But as we imagine these possibilities, we must also imagine choices about choice itself. If we could edit traits that influence temperament, impulsivity, or sociability, would that change who we are? Would a life shaped by such edits still feel like a life we own? For some, the idea of relieving suffering will be a clear good. For others, the idea of designing minds feels unsettling. The future will likely hold both careful, compassionate uses and controversial calls about what should be changed. Consider another path: brain-computer interfaces that connect minds to machines and to each other. Today, such interfaces help people type with thought or restore lost senses. Tomorrow, they might offer ways to share certain feelings or memories across people, or to store moments of experience. This could deepen empathy, creating new ways to understand another person's suffering. It could strengthen relationships by allowing partners to share simple emotional cues that help them respond kindly. Yet sharing minds could also blur the lines between self and other. If a device feeds another person a strong urge or a vivid memory, whose choice is it then? The future invites us to imagine a richer social life, but it also asks for careful rules about consent, privacy, and dignity. Another area to imagine is predictive technology. As data grows, systems will become better at forecasting human behavior. They might predict health failures before symptoms appear, or they might guess when a student needs help before falling behind. Predictive tools can be gentle friends. They offer early warnings and new chances, but they can also create subtle pressure. If a system predicts someone will make a certain choice, others might begin to treat them as already decided. Teachers, employers, or insurers could change how they act towards someone based on predictions, which could limit opportunities. The future will need principles to ensure prediction helps, rather than boxes people in. Now turn inward and picture how these changes affect our inner experience of being an agent. If many aspects of our minds are aided, shaped, or predicted by technologies, will our sense of being an author of our life weaken or change? Perhaps the experience of agency will shift from being the sole originator of choices to being the curator of influences. You might no longer feel that every thought springs fully from you, but you could feel that you wisely choose which supports to accept. A restful app for sleep, a nudging reminder to practice, or a device that calms anxiety. In that sense, freedom becomes a practice of choosing the right helpers, the right constraints, and the right communities. There is also a hopeful, quiet path, Even if absolute metaphysical freedom proves less likely than we once imagined, meaning can still grow. People can find purpose in shaping who they become, in learning new habits, in helping others, and in creating beauty. If you choose practices that shape your life, meditation, study, honest friendships, those choices matter even if they grow from past causes. The future can offer us more tools to support that shaping. What matters is how we use them. Let us consider the moral and legal landscape that might arise. Courts will face new questions. If a device altered a person's impulses, who bears responsibility for actions taken under that influence? If genetic changes predispose someone to certain behaviors, how should the law respond? These are not purely hypothetical. They are the kinds of questions ethicists and lawmakers are beginning to ask even now. One likely future is that legal systems will develop finer-grained distinctions, ways to hold people accountable while also recognizing the role of intervention, support and repair. The aim will be to protect society and treat people with dignity. That balance will be hard, patient work. A small, calming story may help the imagination. A young man named Elias grew up with severe anxiety that shaped many choices. As a young adult, he received a gentle neural stimulation that eased the worst spikes. For the first time, he could accept a job that matched his gifts. He learned new skills, made friends, and built a quiet life. Elias's story shows how a technological change can expand real freedom. At the same time, Elias chose a support network, therapy, and careful limits on technology use. His agency grew not because technology did everything for him, but because it became a tool he used thoughtfully. We should also imagine collective futures. Communities might choose to limit certain enhancements or require safeguards. They might prioritize equal access so that only a few do not gain unfair advantage. They might invest in public spaces that offset technological narrowing, parks, slow reading rooms, and civic rituals. In such futures, people treat freedom as a public good to be tended like a garden. The rules and norms we set now will help shape which futures arrive. Finally, we can ask a gentle philosophical question. Is free will even necessary for a life of value? Some thinkers suggest that meaning does not vanish if freedom looks different from what we once hoped. Love, commitment, art, and kindness can still flourish. Caring for others, building projects, and learning can remain deeply human, whether or not our choices are uncaused in some ultimate sense. The skills of reflection, compassion, and habit building may become more central to our sense of dignity than the belief in absolute uncaused freedom. As this chapter closes, breathe in slowly, feel the air in your lungs and exhale. The future stretches wide with many paths. Some will bring help, healing, and new forms of connection. Others will require careful limits and wise choices. The invitation before us is quiet and clear. To shape technology with care, to protect dignity and consent, and to use new tools in ways that deepen rather than diminish our capacity to live meaningful lives. We stand at a dawn that asks us to act with both curiosity and kindness. Chapter 9. Practical ways to grow your sense of agency. Take a long, slow breath now. As you breathe out, imagine a quiet room with a window that opens to a small garden. The air is still, and sunlight moves slowly across the floor. In this calm space, we will gently explore how to care for the small parts of life that shape our choices. This chapter is not a list of rules. It is an invitation to try simple, steady practices that can make your decisions feel closer to your own. Think of it as a small garden of habits you can plant and tend one at a time. We begin with attention. Attention is the place where choice often begins. When a thought or feeling arrives, notice it. You do not have to chase it away. You do not have to act on it. Simply notice the tightness in the chest, the flash of memory, the pull to check your phone. This noticing is gentle power. It gives a moment of space between impulse and action. A single breath can be enough to hold that space. Try this practice now and then throughout your day. When you feel an urge, breathe in slowly for 4 counts, hold for a brief pause, and breathe out. That small pause can be the place where the slower, wiser part of your mind has room to speak. Journaling is another simple tool. Writing helps the mind slow down and see patterns. At the end of a day, write 3 small things. 1 choice you're glad you made, 1 choice you would change, and 1 small step you can try tomorrow. Keep the notes short. Over time, you will see patterns emerge. Times when you act from stress, times when you act from care. Seeing the pattern is itself freeing. It turns mystery into a map you can follow. Design your environment kindly. Much of what we choose is nudged by what surrounds us. If you want to eat better, place fruit on the counter and hide snacks in a cupboard. If you want to read more, keep a book beside the bed and turn off notifications an hour before sleep. Small changes in your surroundings remove the need for constant effort. They are not tricks to deny freedom. They are scaffolding that makes it easier for your values to win in daily life. Think of this as choosing helpers that support the person you want to become. Practice tiny experiments. If a habit feels fixed, try a small, time-limited test. If you find yourself snapping in conversations, try a 3-day experiment. When you feel the urge to snap, whisper a calming phrase and breathe for 5 counts. Notice what changes. Keep the experiment short and kind, not a punishment. Experiments let you learn without pressure. They turn change into curiosity instead of a high-stakes demand. Set clear, gentle rules for difficult moments. Make simple plans for predictable situations. If you know that late-night scrolling leads to regret, create a rule. After 10 p.m., the phone goes to a drawer. If you worry about money, make a tiny rule. Do not buy non-essential items for 48 hours after seeing them. Rules are not strict prisons. They are friendly boundaries that protect your long-term self from the quick wins of the moment. Use commitment devices. These are small ways to lock in helpful choices. A commitment device might be a public promise to a friend, a calendar booking that you cannot move, or an app that blocks tempting sites during work hours. The power of a commitment device is that it uses your future self's desire to protect your present plans. It can feel like giving your future self a supportive nudge so they can act with you rather than against you. Build routines that matter. Freedom often grows inside a routine. Routines do not remove choice. They make space for more meaningful choices by handling the small ones automatically. A morning routine that includes a short stretch, a glass of water, and 5 minutes of quiet can create a calm start to the day. That calmness helps with later decisions. The trick is to keep routines small and sustainable. Start with 1 tiny change and stick with it for a week. If it helps, keep it. If not, try another small step. Cultivate self-talk that helps rather than harms. The words you say to yourself shape your actions. If your inner voice is harsh, "I always fail," it can make you give up quickly. If your inner voice is curious and kind, "That didn't work today. What can I learn?" It opens space for change. Try practicing a gentle phrase you can use when things go wrong. "Okay, this is part of learning." Repeat it once or twice and notice how your body relaxes. Over time, kind phrases become the mind's safe path back to trying again. Practice tiny acts of delayed gratification. Choose a small pleasure and postpone it for a short time. If you want a treat, wait 15 minutes and do something else first. Stretch, drink water, step outside. Often the urge will pass or shrink. Learning to wait, even briefly, builds a muscle of choice. It teaches you that you can hold a desire and choose what serves you better. Find social support. We are social beings, and change is easier with friends. Share a small goal with someone who will cheer you on. Choose a partner for a weekly walk, a friend to check in about habits, or an online group with a similar aim. Support does not mean someone will fix you. It means that others will notice your progress and remind you on days you feel small. Community is a quiet engine of freedom. Learn from gentle therapy and coaching if you can. Talking with a therapist or a coach can help you see hidden patterns, gain tools for change, and practice new ways of acting. Therapy is not only for crisis. It can be a steady place to learn how your life has been shaped and how you can shape it now. If therapy is not available, look for books, guided courses, or reputable free resources that teach small steps for habit change. Practice forgiveness and repair. When you make a choice you regret, the fastest path to new freedom is to repair and learn. Say sorry when needed, make amends, and then plan a small step to do differently next time. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is a way to free energy for new choices rather than get stuck in shame. Shame narrows choice, repair widens it. Use sleep, movement, and food as allies. When you're tired or hungry, choices narrow. A poor night's sleep makes the quick, reactive parts of the mind stronger. Gentle movement, regular meals, and enough rest create a base of calm that helps the reflective parts of the mind work better. Think of body care not as separate from freedom, but as the soil in which it grows. Practice perspective taking. Try a small exercise. When a strong urge comes, imagine two possible versions of the future that could follow each action. Picture them in simple detail. How you feel 10 minutes after, how you feel tomorrow. This simple imagining often shifts choices because it makes consequences feel real and near. It helps you be the author who sees the story ahead rather than being carried by the next sentence. Keep a small gratitude practice. Each evening, notice one choice that made your day better. It can be as small as answering a message, making a cup of tea, or stepping outside. Gratitude trains attention toward the actions that support a good life. It is not a denial of struggle. It is a gentle recognition that you can act in ways that matter. Finally, accept gentle limits. No practice makes you perfectly free in an absolute sense. That is not the aim. The aim is to widen the space where you can act with care and to grow the small skills that make meaningful choices easier. When you accept limits kindly, you stop fighting yourself and start learning how to shape what you can. Let me tell you a small story. A woman named Lila found herself saying yes to everything until she had no time left. She felt pulled in many directions and powerless. Instead of a dramatic overhaul, she began with one small step, a rule that 2 evenings a week were for herself. She told a close friend, set a calendar block, and put a soft reminder on her door. At first, it felt strange to keep the time. Over months, she used the evenings for reading, a slow walk, and a little quiet. Her sense of choice returned step by step. She reported feeling more present with others and more able to say no when it mattered. Lila's change did not come from a single grand decision. It came from many small, steady acts that created space. As you let these ideas settle, remember, small things add up. A slow breath, a short pause, a tiny experiment, a helpful rule, or a scheduled evening can change the shape of your days. Freedom often grows like a garden, quietly, with season after season of care. Chapter 10. The Neuroscience of Decision-Making. Imagine you're about to reach for a glass of water. Your hand begins to move. You think you decided to move it, right? But what if I told you? Your brain knew that movement was coming a full third of a second before you were consciously aware of it. That simple truth, revealed through decades of neuroscience research, quietly shakes the foundation of what we believe about free will. It began in the 1980s with a neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet. He asked volunteers to perform a small, simple act, flicking their wrist, while watching a clock. They were told to note the exact moment when they felt the conscious urge to move. As electrodes recorded brain activity, something stunning appeared. A small electrical signal called the readiness potential started building up in their brains about half a second before the volunteers consciously decided to move. In other words, the brain had already begun preparing for the action before they, the conscious I, had made the decision. The experiment suggested that what we call a choice might actually be the brain's report of something that has already begun deep within its networks. You might not be deciding, you might be noticing your decision after it's already set in motion. Now let's slow that down even more. Imagine your brain as a quiet ocean. Beneath the surface, waves of electrical activity are constantly moving, forming and breaking. Every sensory input, what you see, hear, feel, remember, stirs this ocean. Somewhere in those depths, billions of neurons hum together, creating patterns that predict what might happen next. When you're thirsty, for example, the sensation isn't born at the moment you think, I want water. It starts much earlier. Tiny sensors in your body detect dehydration. They send chemical signals to your hypothalamus, a deep, ancient part of the brain. That region communicates with the limbic system, the seat of emotion, and you start to feel thirst. Your cortex, the rational thinking layer, interprets that feeling and turns it into an idea. I'll grab some water. So, was that decision truly yours? Or was it a beautifully orchestrated chain reaction, a sequence written by your body and brain long before you became aware of it? The more scientists look, the more this pattern appears. Decisions, it seems, are not sudden sparks of conscious will. They are slow-growing roots, branching silently beneath awareness until they finally bloom into what we call a choice. Yet, the story doesn't end there. New studies have challenged and deepened Libet's original idea. Some researchers argue that even though the brain may begin preparing an action before consciousness notices, that doesn't mean we're powerless. Think of it this way. Imagine you're driving a car. The engine starts humming before you even touch the wheel, but you still decide where to steer it. The brain might prepare a range of possible actions, but the conscious self may have the power to veto them. Libet himself called this the free won't. In his later studies, he suggested that while the brain initiates movement, consciousness might still intervene in the final moment, allowing you to stop or redirect an impulse before it becomes action. That tiny space, the space between impulse and execution, may be where true free will hides. Not in choosing what arises, but in how we respond to it. Let's make this idea more human. Picture a man named Adam standing in a crowded city street. Someone bumps into him roughly, spilling his coffee. Instantly, his body reacts. Heart rate spikes, muscles tense, anger rises. A script begins to unfold in his brain, the urge to shout, to retaliate. But Adam pauses. He takes a breath. That small moment, perhaps just 2 seconds, changes everything. His conscious awareness steps in. He decides to walk away instead. What happened in those 2 seconds is the living proof of that mysterious gap between brain and will. The impulse arose automatically, determined by biology, emotion, and experience. But the response was guided by awareness. This pause, this power to step back, is something deeply human. It's what mindfulness teachers and philosophers across time have described in their own ways, the gap between stimulus and response where choice lives. As neuroscience continued to evolve, brain scans and imaging techniques allowed scientists to look even deeper. They discovered that decisions are not made in one single command center. Instead, the brain's decision-making process is a conversation, a dialogue between many regions. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain just behind your forehead, helps plan, reason, and predict outcomes. The limbic system provides emotional coloring, telling you what feels right or wrong. The parietal lobes process sensory data, and the basal ganglia help translate thought into movement. In every moment of choice, whether it's reaching for water or choosing a life partner, all these regions hum together like an orchestra, and somehow, from their harmony, a single, unified sense of "I decided" emerges. Yet, that I, the narrator of your mind, might not be the composer of the song. It might be the listener interpreting the music after it's already begun. This leads us to one of the most humbling discoveries in neuroscience. Much of what we call conscious thought may actually be a storytelling process. Your brain does something first, and then your mind weaves a narrative explaining why it happened. If you've ever caught yourself saying, "I just felt like doing it," you felt that process firsthand. Studies using split-brain patients, people whose brain hemispheres have been surgically separated, show this vividly. When one side of their brain acts on its own, the other side often invents an explanation afterward, completely unaware of the true reason. It's as if the brain needs to maintain the illusion of unity, to keep telling itself, "I am in control." Because perhaps that story, that comforting sense of authorship, is what keeps us feeling whole. Now let's take a deep breath together, in and out. These discoveries can sound unsettling, but they don't have to be. If our decisions are shaped by unseen forces, by neurons, hormones, memories, and context, then every moment of awareness becomes precious. Every act of mindfulness, every pause, every breath where you stop and notice what's happening inside you, that is a rebellion against unconscious automation. Even if free will is not absolute, awareness is a kind of freedom. It is the light that allows us to see the machinery at work, and by seeing it, we begin to influence it. Maybe the goal is not to escape determinism, but to dance with it, to live consciously within the vast and beautiful web of causes that brought you here. You're not a puppet, you're a witness and a participant, a being who can watch the flow of thought and decide how to surf it. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, imagine the theatre of your mind, a quiet stage where neurons whisper, signals rise and fade, and from their gentle hum emerges something miraculous. You who can observe, you who can reflect, you who can choose, or at least who can pause, breathe, and notice that a choice exists at all. In that small, sacred space of awareness, freedom begins. Chapter 11. The Dreamlike Nature of Reality. When you look around you right now, the room you are in, the sounds you hear, the gentle rhythm of your breath, everything feels solid, tangible, and real. Yet, when we pause to think about it more deeply, a curious thought arises. What if this sense of reality is more like a dream than we realize? Not a dream in the sense of fantasy or illusion, but a state that feels real only because we are inside it. Just as in a dream, we never question the world we're experiencing until we wake up. Perhaps our waking life follows the same mysterious pattern. Ancient philosophers and modern scientists alike have pondered this question. In the quiet chambers of Indian philosophy, the ancient texts of the Upanishads once described the world as Maya, a grand illusion. They suggested that everything we see is like a veil, hiding a deeper, unchanging truth. Thousands of years later, thinkers like Descartes, and more recently physicists like Einstein, would echo similar ideas. that reality might not be as firm or as stable as it appears. Imagine a night when you have a vivid dream. You're walking through a forest. The leaves shimmer, the wind brushes against your face, and the world around you feels alive and tangible. For a while, you're fully immersed in that world. You feel emotions, sensations, even fear or joy, all of it real to you in that moment. Then suddenly, you wake up. The forest disappears, the sounds fade. You realize that everything you experience was a product of your mind. Now, think about waking life. The experiences you have are made possible by the brain interpreting signals from your senses. Light entering your eyes, vibrations touching your ears, signals traveling through nerves. In truth, you never experience the world directly. You experience your brain's interpretation of it. Your mind is constantly translating, constructing, and weaving together an image of the world, just as it does in dreams. The only difference is that this version feels consistent and shared by others, which makes it feel more real. Modern neuroscience supports this view. Studies show that what we call reality is actually a model that the brain builds, updated every second using sensory input. Your brain takes guesses, fills in gaps, and creates a stable, coherent world from incomplete data. The world you perceive is therefore partly created by your own mind. This is not just poetic philosophy, it's measurable science. For example, when you close your eyes, your brain continues to generate images. When you imagine a sound, the same regions that process real sounds become active. The boundary between perception and imagination is much thinner than most people realize. This realization can be both unsettling and freeing. If reality is, in a way, a shared dream, then what does it mean to be awake? What does it mean to know something is real? These questions have been asked for centuries, from the teachings of Buddha to the meditations of ancient Greek philosophers. In Buddhist thought, enlightenment is sometimes described as waking up, seeing through the illusion of separateness and realizing that the self and the world are one continuous flow of awareness. To think of reality as a dream is not to deny its beauty or importance. Rather, it invites us to see it with gentler eyes. If everything is a kind of dream, then life becomes more precious, more fluid, and more interconnected. The joy you feel, the pain you carry, the people you meet, they're all part of this magnificent unfolding of consciousness, dancing between the real and the unreal. Physics, too, whispers hints of this dreamlike nature. On the quantum level, particles behave in ways that seem to defy logic. They appear to exist in multiple states until observed, as if reality itself waits for consciousness to look before deciding what to be. It's as though the universe is not a static thing out there, but a living relationship between observer and observed, a co-creation of mind and matter. This idea finds poetic reflection in an ancient Chinese story told by the philosopher Zhuangzi. One night, he dreamt he was a butterfly, fluttering freely in the breeze. When he awoke, he wondered, was he Zhuangzi dreaming he was a butterfly? Or was he a butterfly now dreaming he was Zhuangzi? This simple question has echoed for over 2,000 years, challenging our certainty about the boundary between dream and waking life. If you sit quietly and notice your thoughts, you'll see how each moment arises and fades, just like scenes in a dream. Nothing in your experience stands still for long. Even what feels solid, your body, your memories, the world, is constantly changing, dissolving and reforming. Everything is movement. Everything is flow. When we truly observe this, we begin to sense that existence is not a collection of fixed things, but a living, breathing process. And in this realization, there is peace. To know that life is like a dream does not make it meaningless. it makes it lighter, more mysterious. You begin to see that the struggles, the attachments, the fears are like passing clouds in the vast sky of awareness. You can breathe a little deeper, worry a little less. The world continues its dance, and you, the dreamer, become both participant and witness. There's a quiet beauty in recognizing that perhaps we are dreamers within a greater dream, and that even this thought, right now, is part of that same unfolding mystery. As you drift deeper into stillness, imagine the boundaries between waking and dreaming, real and unreal, dissolving gently. Let them merge into one seamless expanse of awareness, timeless, infinite, and free. Chapter 12. Consciousness Beyond the Self. Imagine for a moment that you're sitting alone in a quiet room. The lights are dim, the world outside is still, and there is nothing to distract you. You close your eyes and begin to listen, not to the sounds around you, but to the quiet hum of your own awareness. You notice your breath, slow and gentle, moving in and out. You notice thoughts passing through your mind, images, memories, emotions, rising and fading like ripples in a pond. And then a strange realization begins to emerge. Even as these thoughts come and go, something remains constant. Something watches, something knows. That something is consciousness. It is not the thoughts themselves, nor the emotions, nor the body, but the awareness that observes them all. It's the quiet, ever-present witness that has been with you through every experience you've ever had, from childhood to this very moment. You have changed in countless ways, yet this awareness has remained the same. It's the one thing that has never left you. But what exactly is consciousness? For centuries, philosophers, mystics, and scientists have tried to answer this question. Some see it as a product of the brain, a result of electrical activity and chemical reactions. Others see it as something deeper, something that exists before and beyond the physical body. And the more we explore, the more mysterious it becomes. In everyday life, we usually think of consciousness as mine, my awareness, my thoughts, my mind. But if we look closely, we start to see cracks in this idea. The truth is, we don't create awareness, we simply experience it. Awareness is not something we own. It's something we are a part of. Something vast, limitless, and shared by all living things. Consider the ocean. Each wave rises and falls, unique in shape and form. But no wave is separate from the sea itself. It's all water, moving as one. In the same way, each of us seems to be an individual, with our own stories, names and lives, but underneath it all we arise from the same ocean of consciousness. We're different waves of the same vast awareness. This idea isn't just poetic. In many ancient traditions, it is the heart of spiritual understanding. The Upanishads of India described it beautifully. You are that, meaning that the consciousness you feel within yourself is not personal, but universal. The same awareness that looks through your eyes looks through the eyes of every being. The same silence behind your thoughts exists behind all thoughts. When we truly see this, something begins to shift. The boundaries between self and other start to blur. The world no longer feels like a collection of separate objects and people. It feels like one living field of being, endlessly expressing itself in different forms. The trees, the rivers, the stars, even the people you meet, all are expressions of the same consciousness, wearing different masks, playing different roles. Modern science is slowly beginning to touch this mystery too. Physicists talk about quantum entanglement, the strange connection between particles that remain linked even when separated by vast distances. What happens to one instantly affects the other, as if the universe itself is woven together by an invisible thread. Some thinkers have begun to wonder if consciousness might work in a similar way, as something unified that expresses itself through countless individual minds. Neuroscience has shown that the sense of self, the I that you feel, is not a single fixed thing. It's a pattern, a process created by the brain. When certain parts of the brain are quieted, such as during deep meditation or certain altered states, this sense of separation begins to dissolve. People who experience this often describe an overwhelming feeling of unity, a sense that they are not separate from the world but one with it. They describe it as peaceful, boundless, and profoundly real. Perhaps you felt a small glimpse of this yourself, maybe while watching a sunset, walking in nature, or listening to music. For a moment, your thoughts quiet down, and you feel perfectly at ease. There's no you trying to understand, no you trying to control, just the simple experience of being. In that moment, you and the world are not two things, you are the same. This is what it means to experience consciousness beyond the self. It's not about erasing who you are, but about seeing that your personal identity is just one wave in a vast ocean. When we cling too tightly to the idea of me, we suffer, we compare, we fear, we feel alone. But when we loosen our grip, we realize that the same life flowing through us flows through everyone. And in that realization, there is deep peace. Even modern thinkers are beginning to explore this possibility. Some neuroscientists propose that consciousness might not be created by the brain at all, that the brain might act more like a receiver or filter, tuning into a universal field of awareness. Just as a radio doesn't create music but receives it, perhaps our brains receive and interpret consciousness. If this is true, then death itself might not be an end, but simply a change in form, the wave returning to the ocean. When mystics describe enlightenment, they often say it's like waking up from the dream of being a separate self. You don't lose your individuality, you simply stop mistaking it for the whole of who you are. It's as if you've been staring at one small ripple and suddenly see the entire ocean that holds it. From this perspective, love takes on a new meaning. It's not just an emotion between two people, it's the recognition of yourself in another. Compassion arises naturally when you see that the suffering of others is not separate from your own. The boundaries between you and them soften, and the world begins to feel more alive, more connected, more whole. If you sit quietly again and close your eyes, you might notice that awareness has no edge. You can't find where it begins or ends. It doesn't stop at your skin, or your thoughts, or your memories. It's open, endless, and completely still, like a clear sky stretching in every direction. Everything you experienced, sounds, sensations, emotions, appears and disappears within this vast sky. You're not inside consciousness. You are consciousness, experiencing itself as you. This simple realization can transform the way we live. When you know yourself as awareness, not just as a person, the world no longer feels threatening. Change no longer feels like loss. Death no longer feels like the end. Everything becomes part of the same eternal rhythm, appearing, vanishing, and appearing again, like waves on an infinite sea. And as you breathe slowly now, you can sense this vastness within you, calm, unshaken, infinite. It is the same awareness that was present when you were a child, the same that watches your thoughts today, and the same that will remain long after every thought has faded. It is not something you need to create or achieve. It is what you already are. Let this awareness cradle you, softly and endlessly. Let the boundaries of I melt away, until all that remains is this gentle stillness, the great ocean of consciousness itself, flowing through every living thing, dreaming this beautiful dream we call life. Chapter 13. The Nature of Time and the Eternal Now. Time is one of the most familiar parts of our lives, and yet one of the most mysterious. We wake up in the morning, we move through the day, we grow older, we measure our lives by clocks and calendars. Yet when we stop to ask what time really is, the answer slips away like sand through open fingers. We say that time flows, but where does it flow from and where does it go? We talk about the past, the present, and the future as if they are separate places, like rooms connected by doors, yet we never actually leave the present moment. We remember the past, we imagine the future, but all of it happens now. Think about it for a moment. You cannot step into the past, you can only think about it. You cannot travel to the future, you can only anticipate it. Every memory, every plan, every dream, every regret, they all appear right here in this instant of awareness. The past and future exist only as thoughts within the present. This realization has fascinated thinkers for centuries. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus once said, "You cannot step into the same river twice, because the water is always changing. The flow of time, like the river, is continuous and never still." But perhaps there is another way to look at it. Maybe the river doesn't flow through time. Maybe time flows through us. From birth to death, we measure our lives in moments. But those moments are not pieces of time. They are experiences of awareness. Every second you live, every heartbeat, every breath, happens within consciousness. Without awareness, time has no meaning at all. 1,000 years could pass, but if there were no consciousness to witness it, it would be as if no time had passed at all. This is why some spiritual traditions speak of time as an illusion, not because events don't happen, but because our minds create the sense of past and future by comparing one moment to another. Memory gives us a story that stretches backward. Imagination projects it forward. But both are made of thought, and thought always happens now. If you've ever sat quietly and lost yourself in the present, perhaps while watching a sunset, listening to rain, or simply breathing, you might have felt a strange stillness, as if time had stopped. The minutes and hours seem to vanish, replaced by a feeling of timeless presence. That is not just imagination. It is a glimpse into a deeper truth. Beneath the constant ticking of clocks, beneath the rush of schedules and deadlines, there is a vast stillness that does not move. It is the backdrop of all experience, the eternal now. Modern physics surprisingly echoes this idea. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not an independent force moving forward like a river. Instead, time and space form a single fabric, space-time, and everything that has ever happened, or ever will happen, exists simultaneously within it. To us, time appears to flow because we move through this fabric in a particular way, like a flashlight beam moving across a still photograph. But the photograph itself, the universe, is already complete. If that is true, then perhaps every moment of your life, your first breath, your happiest day, your last goodbye, still exists somewhere in that vast tapestry. We experience them as a sequence only because of how our minds perceive change. Time, then, may not be something we move through. It may be something we create by observing the world moment by moment. This also explains why memory feels alive. When you recall a distant event, it is not that you're traveling back into time, it's that the mind is recreating the experience here and now. The past becomes present again through thought. Even the future, when we imagine it, becomes a living picture in the present. Everything you experience in truth happens in this single, timeless instant. If we reflect on it deeply, we see that time is not the steady march of seconds we imagine. It's more like a heartbeat, expanding and contracting depending on our state of mind. When you are bored, time crawls. When you're joyful or absorbed in what you love, hours can pass in what feels like minutes. This shows that time is not entirely external. It bends and stretches according to awareness. In ancient teachings, this insight was not just philosophical, it was deeply practical. To live fully in the present moment is to be free from the weight of time. Most of our worries come from the future, and most of our regrets come from the past. Yet neither of them exists outside of thought. When you return your attention to what is happening now, all that remains is the direct experience of being alive, the only reality that truly exists. Think about the simplicity of this. Right now, as you listen to these words, you're breathing. Air moves in and out of your body. You can feel the rhythm of your chest rising and falling. You can feel the ground beneath you. This moment is complete. It lacks nothing. The mind, however, constantly tries to pull you elsewhere, toward what happened or what might happen, creating a restless feeling of incompleteness. But if you simply rest here, now, that restlessness disappears. You realize that the now is not a fleeting point between past and future. It is the eternal foundation on which both rest. In this sense, living in the present is not about denying time. It's about seeing through its illusion. The present moment is not one of many. It is the only one. Every moment you have ever experienced happened in the present. Every moment you ever will experience will happen in the present. The now is the stage on which all of life unfolds. This insight brings a quiet peace. When you understand that you're always in the present, you stop chasing moments that never come. You begin to live more slowly, more attentively. You start to notice small things. The way sunlight dances through a window, the way water ripples in a cup, the way the air feels against your skin. These details, often ignored, begin to glow with meaning. Time becomes softer, not something to fear or escape, but something to embrace. Even death, when seen from this perspective, takes on a different light. If time is not a straight line, then the end of life is not an absolute disappearance. It is simply a change in form within the eternal now. The consciousness that witnesses time may not be bound by it at all. The body moves through seasons of birth and decay, but awareness, the silent witness, remains untouched. To grasp this truth fully is not a matter of thinking, but of seeing. If you close your eyes and bring your attention to this very moment, you'll notice that everything is already still. There is no rush, no direction, no past or future, only this open space of being. In this silence, there is no time, and yet everything exists. The ticking of a clock, the beating of your heart, the motion of stars, all arise within this timeless awareness. This is the eternal now, the quiet truth that life is always unfolding right here, in this moment. It is the same now that existed when you were a child, the same now that existed thousands of years ago, and the same now that will exist long after you're gone. Time passes, but now never does. Now is eternal. When you rest in this understanding, even for a breath, you may feel an immense stillness, a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. You realize that you've never been apart from this presence. It has always been here, waiting patiently behind your thoughts. Let the ticking of time fade into silence. Let your thoughts slow down and dissolve into the vast stillness of now. Everything you seek, peace, joy, understanding, is already here, waiting in this timeless space of awareness.